Yeah, good morning from Absolutely Famous. We're joined on the show today by a regular rugby expert, former Marlborough and King Country loose forward Greg Brimble from the beautiful New South Wales coastal town of Nowra. Greg, you're in Brimsbar, of course, at home. What a great setup you got there.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's my little home away from home. It's my little sanctuary where I can lock myself up out here and keep out of Rebecca's way. Watch as much football as I like and have a few cold ones and generally reminisce about the good old times and catch up with what's current in sport around Australia and New Zealand and the world, mate. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Fantastic. So, your caravan business, Jayco Nowra, I guess, is they're still running out the door, are they, even though the weather's getting a bit chillier?
Oh yeah, it's going good, mate. Yeah, there's a lot of demand. We had the big caravan and camping show in Sydney this week. We sold 14 up there at the show. So that was handy. But yeah, no, it's good, mate. There's still a lot of demand out there, and of course, it's a pretty good brand we represent as well. So come and see us.
They're here, best country in the world to do road trips, I reckon.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's not as windy as New Zealand. I'll give you the tip.
Yeah, that's right. Well, onto the rugby, Brims. Plenty of good rugby in the weekend, although it wasn't a full round. Some sides didn't play, but I was really pleased to see the Western Force have a win because I think they're a team on the up in Australia, and I don't think it'll be long before they'll be challenging to be the best team in Aussie.
Well, yeah, I agree, John, and I've always been an advocate of rugby in Western Australia, and you've got a pretty strong connection with Western Australia yourself through family. But we both know how strong that fan base is over in WA and Perth in particular, with those strong expat communities. There's a lot of Brits over there. There's a lot of Kiwis, and there's a lot of South Africans as well. And they will provide a really good, solid, and fairly informed rugby base as well. And I think if rugby in Australia is to be a national sport, and it's got any chance of competing with the other three football codes, that needs to have a presence on the west coast of Australia, John, and having them back in the competition is really good. And they're going to be a force to be, excuse the pun, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in years to come. Really good to see them back there, and a good win over a pretty disappointing Highlanders team.
Yeah, 30-17 have probably flattered the Highlanders a bit. But yeah, they've got a very astute coach, Simon Cron, hails originally from Christchurch, from the famous Cron family, and Tony Lewis, their CEO, the former Marco CEO, former Otago winger. He's a very ambitious man, Tony. He doesn't like coming second, and I like their attitude.
Yeah, and they've got they've got a good playing base there as well. They seem to be attracting a few players over there, very astute coaching staff, and they've also got Twiggy Forrest, who's a very strong supporter of Western Australia and Western Force rugby over there, and he's got very deep pockets, and he doesn't seem to be afraid of splashing a bit of cash around. So let's say if he splashes a bit more around Western Australian rugby, it's they got a really strong setup, very good infrastructure over there, and good admin and management.
Yeah, they have, and they're right behind the women's game too, and it was great to see the Western Force ladies have their first win last week, which is a terrific start for the girls.
Yeah, and just on that as well, women's rugby, John, record numbers in New Zealand signing up for the women's game in Aotearoa at the moment, and isn't that great to see on the back of a very successful World Cup campaign last year too? So it's just going from strength to strength, isn't it? I mean, it gives me goosebumps actually just talking about that, because it's been a long time coming, and women's sport has been neglected in general, and it's really good to see it as strong as it is, and right across all the coasts, cricket and football, the wonderful Sam Kerr that plays for Australia, and AFL competitions and rugby league competitions as well. Really good to see, mate.
Yeah, it's fantastic. A hugely untapped market still. Well, nothing's really changed in the Super Rugby. Brims, the Chiefs, Crusaders, and Blues will all fight out the semi-finals, I'm thinking, and they were all reasonably convincing winners last weekend, albeit with a few hiccups for each of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won. They all won sort of convincingly in the end, with the exception of the Highlanders. But we won't talk about them because that hurts me. But yeah, there's. I'm still concerned with the quality and the standard, John. I don't think the Australian standard has improved a lot. I think the New Zealand standards have actually lowered, and that's been the cause of that gap narrowing. Having said that, the Australian teams have only won 2 games against New Zealand opposition in Super Rugby so far this year, but really it's the standard hasn't enthused me a lot and got me too excited. And I'm hoping that the second half of the Super Rugby season we're going to see it more competitive as players get fitter and they fall into their roles, and competition for World Cup spots becomes stronger as well. It's certainly what Ian Foster wants to see at the moment. He wants to. I think there's some players he's got tagged that need to show some big improvements on the first half of the Super Rugby season, mate.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed that Foster came out and actually said that, mentioned a couple of names, and yeah, I'm sure that David Havili certainly took notice. He had a fantastic game for the Crusaders when they beat the Rebels 43-27, and a couple of other guys on that match. I was really pleased to see Cullen Grace back, Quentin Strange, but Cullen Grace particularly because he's an All Black, and Jack Goodhue.
Yeah, it was good to see those guys back. I think Goodhue, I think he may have gone off injured in that game. Again, he's had a shocking run with injuries, but good to see Cullen Grace back. He's a really good footballer, good loose forward. He's in contention for an All Black spot this year. He is a former All Black. He's a terrific line-out exponent as well, and he's got good skills and a bit of pace as well. He gets around the field well. He's the type of loose forward that the All Black selectors will be keeping their eye on, because that's what they want. Especially because he's a good line-out option as well. But yeah, good to see those players back. David Havili, as you said, he was very strong, and just when you needed someone to settle things down and show some maturity in that game, David Havili steps up, and it was really good to see, because he brought a level of game management to that game that was really required, and he stepped up when it was needed as well. But I was particularly also pleased to see Dallas McLeod getting back on the field, and I've got big raps on Dallas McLeod. He's a wonderful footballer. He is. I don't think he's going to make it to France, but he's a really good second 5'8" centre, that fella, and we're going to keep our eye on him and look after him. Don't let him go overseas, because mark my words, he's got a future in New Zealand rugby, that lad.
Yeah, it's certainly a breakout season for him. He's getting a bit of game time. It was, as you say, Goodhue and Havili have been injured, so he looks very impressive. Another guy, of course, who shot into prominence. He left Christchurch, I think, about 2 o'clock in the morning as a late call-up, was that hooker, Ione Moanamu. He came on, scored a magnificent try, and Scott Robertson likened him to Kevin Mulamu, so pretty big raps.
God, wasn't he good when he came on? He's like, I don't know what he had before he got on the field, but geez, I tell you what, I wouldn't mind some of it. He was fantastic, wasn't he? It was really good to see, and isn't there some depth in that hooking spots around New Zealand? I mean, there's I don't know, 6 to 8 really good quality international standard hookers running around New Zealand at the moment, and that was really good to see. I mean, you look up north, Ricky Riccatelli's he's taken over Kurt Eklund's spot as the number 1 hooker up there, and he's been in fantastic form. Like, he won't go to France either, but geez, he'd bolt into any other international team in the world.
Yeah.
God, there's some depth there, John.
Is there what? Of course, we're looking for some really good rugby. I think it'll almost be test-like in Hamilton on Saturday when the Chiefs play the Crusaders, because that's got to be the game of the competition so far. I think the Crusaders were well beaten in round 1 in Christchurch, and this will be an All Black trial for a few players.
Yeah, well, it will be, and it'll be interesting, won't it? Because there's some fascinating matchups in there. Not least of all, Big Brody versus Sam in the middle of the fullback. So this game could be a watershed day for a number of loose forwards in particular, looking forward. And I think that this will be a real test. Like you say, it's almost like an old All Black trial, this game coming up. And I think we'll get some indications from that, just who's stepping up and who's not quite there at the moment. But some fascinating matchups in this game coming up, isn't there? Not least of all between the two coaches. They're probably the two best coaches in New Zealand.
Yeah, two very good coaches. And I'm looking forward to the clash. I hope Damien McKenzie plays first five and is up against Richie Mo'unga, because McKenzie's really thrown down the gauntlet this year.
Oh yes, and isn't that a mouth-watering matchup? That Damien McKenzie, and they spoke about Damien McKenzie on the breakdown. I was watching the breakdown last night, and Ian Foster was saying it's quite interesting to seeing how he wanted Damien McKenzie. He wanted to see more depth in Damien McKenzie's game, because Damien McKenzie is a front foot player and he loves to take the ball to the line, and that's instinctively Damien McKenzie, is to take the ball to the line. But I think he wants to see Damien McKenzie prepared to just sit back a bit and look where he can place those kicks, strategic kicks, and put pressure on the opposition defences as well. And we've really seen that from Damien McKenzie this year. He sits back and he's prepared to poke the ball in behind the defences. And, he's so exciting. We've got to have him on the field somewhere. And I actually agree with what they were saying on the breakdown. I think he's the impact player we need to be bringing on. But, Damien McKenzie versus Richie Mo'unga, oh, geez, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be good, mate.
Should be a beauty. Well, Ian Foster and the selectors have got a hell of a job trying to pick the loose forward group for the World Cup. I was just going through it the other day, and I'll probably miss someone out, but Sam Cane is likely to be captain. Artie Severe, Shannon Frizzell, Ethan Blackadder, Cullen Grace, Akira Ione, Dalton Papali'i, Billy Harmon. I mean, Jesus, good luck trying to sort out the best three for that. Yeah.
Well, I've been sitting here this morning just having my toast and my cup of tea, John, and going through some potential loose forward makeups for a test team. And you could almost say 7 and 8 have picked themselves. I don't think that's going to change too much. I think 6 is the big question mark. Who's going to make up the 6? And then of course what we've got coming through in terms of support, and there's wonderful depth in loose forwards at the moment. And one of the players I've been most impressed with this season, the 23-year-old blindside flanker for the Chiefs, Samipeni Finau. And he's only 23 years old, but he's a metre 93 tall, John, and he's been used as a lock as well. So he's a great line-out option, but he's really mobile. He tackles like a machine, and he's a very, very good ball carrier as well. And he's got a lot of pace for a big man. And he was really good last weekend against, I think it was the Drua they played, and he was exceptional. I'd love to see. I think he's playing himself into contention this year. Samipeni Finau. You just mark that name down. You heard it first at Brims's Bar, Johnny.
Well, I got to watch him at Sanctuary Cove last year when the Chiefs were here, and he's a physical unit and a half, no doubt about that. And watching the Chiefs train there, right up, a couple of metres away from watching them do line-out drills. Jesus, they are fierce. And I think that's where Saturday's battle will be so good, because the Crusaders are equally fierce.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a real matchup there. But if you look at the contenders and being an ex-blindside myself, of course you get fascinated with your own position because you think there's no other positions on the field that count. But you look at the contenders for the number 6 position in the All Blacks, and you've got, the incumbent you'd probably say is Shannon Frizzell. Now he hasn't been in outstanding form for the Highlanders. It was very hard to tell because he's playing in a losing team that hasn't been performing well, but he's probably the incumbent. But the contenders you've got is, I think the number one contender for that position is at the moment is Scott Barrett, because you need to have Scott Barrett on the field. And Scott Barrett's work rate is astronomical. You just watch him, and I've done this a few times watching Super Rugby. Just watch Scott Barrett. Just watch what Scott Barrett does. He's just a workaholic. The amount of tackles he makes and the amount of bodies that he moves in contact is unbelievable. And given that you've got Brodie Retallick and Stan Whitelock filling the second row spots, I don't think anyone's going to displace them. But we need to have Scott Barrett on the field somewhere, and you can't play him at first 5'8" or halfback. So you're going to have to slot him in at blindside flanker, and I think that's what they're looking at. They want a really big body, and if we want to contest against the South Africans and the French at the World Cup, we need to have big bodies in there, and bodies that can move other bodies, and that are strong and dominant in tackles and dominant in contact. And so Scott Barrett's contender. You've also got Akira Awani, Shannon Frizzell, Samipeni Finau that we've spoken about already. But where do you slot Todd Blackadder in? It's given that Sam Cane has probably got 7 sewn up, and he's been in fair dues. Sam Cane's been in good form this year, and that they're going to play Artie Savia at number 8. Where do you slot Todd in? Because you want him on the field at some stage.
Ethan, yeah. Ethan.
Sorry, Ethan.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ethan's injured at the moment, but I think hopefully he'll come back for the Chiefs game, and of course if he does play 6, he'll be up against Finau, so we'll be able to get a good gauge of the work rate of both those players.
Yeah. Look, it's obvious. I'm telling my age. I'm referring to young Ethan Blackadder as Todd Blackadder. It's not the first time
He's a clone.
I think I referred to Caleb Clark as Ronnie Clark at one stage as well. But it shows my age now, so I apologise for that, John. But Ethan Blackadder, of course, yeah. I mean, what do you do? It's a wonderful dilemma to have, I suppose. But creates further dilemmas.
Yeah, does it ever? I'm glad I'm not a selector because I don't know how my team would go. But as we go on during the rugby season, we'll focus on positions. Today was the loose forwards, and there's a lot of debate, of course, about the support coaching staff for Scott Robertson post World Cup brims. And my educated guess would be Leon McDonald, Jason Ryan, Scott Hansen, and Jason Holland as the support crew. Have you got any ideas of other players other coaches you think might get a look in?
I think that's it. I can't remember if you mentioned Clayton McMillan then, but
no, I didn't.
I think Clayton McMillan will be the Chiefs coach. Will be getting earmarked for higher coaching honours. And I think you may have met Clayton McMillan yourself. I was talking to Ian Stark not long ago, and he said he was at a Chiefs training talking to David Hill, and said that Clayton McMillan's a wonderful bloke, a really good style of a person, and he's got a future in New Zealand rugby there somewhere as well. So I'd like to see him there, but he may be looking for more of a head coach role. But I definitely think it looks like and sounds like Leon is probably going to be the assistant coach, and it's probably a logical choice as well. Leon knows those Auckland players very well, and there'll be a significant contingent of Auckland players in that 33-man squad for France. So he'll be in there. Jason Holland, they obviously rate him pretty Highlanders, pretty highly, and he's the Hurricanes. I think he's currently the current Hurricanes coach, or he was the Hurricanes coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you've got it covered there. That, like I say, it's really Clayton McMillan. I think it would be wonderful to see him in there somewhere. He's very highly rated up south of the Bombays up there.
Yeah, he is, and he's done the New Zealand Maori side for several seasons successfully too. So some great footy on the weekend. We'll just go through the Hurricanes and the Brumbies on Friday. That should be a good one in Wellington.
Yeah, I think now I'm a Hurricanes fan, but despite this game being in New Zealand, I can't see the Hurricanes beating the Brumbies. The Brumbies they're on fire at the moment. They've got a very strong team, and I'm just hoping that they send their full contingent over as well, John. We need to, Waratahs left half their squad behind when they came over to New Zealand, and that was really disappointing. They'd thrown the towel in before they even started the game. So I'm hoping the Brumbies send their full squad over, but I'll be picking the Brumbies in that game, mate.
Yeah. What about the match of the round on Saturday, Chiefs Crusaders? Who have you got there?
Where's that game? That's up in Chiefs territory.
That's in Hamilton. Yep. They expect hoping for a full house there.
Well, look, I think you've probably got to err on the side of the Chiefs in this game, given that it's at home, that they're unbeaten this year. But it's also highly unlikely that they'll remain unbeaten this year. It's a big feat and a big ask to go through a Super Rugby season unbeaten. And a loss wouldn't hurt them at this stage. They're still going to stay at the top of the table. But, geez, I tell you, you would know yourself, John, never write off a Crusaders team.
No.
Never, ever write them off, because they've been written off many, many times before after slow starts. And they're gonna be there somewhere. But this is going to be the game of the round, isn't it?
No question. Game of the competition so far. I'm going for the Crusaders, of course. Born in Christchurch, I've got red and black blood flowing through my veins. So, yeah, good stuff.
One-eyed as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I try to keep an even keel when I'm commentating, but when I'm just a spectator, it's Crusaders all the way. Brims, thanks for your expertise again, mate. Lovely to talk rugby as always, and Brims's bar looking great behind you, and I'm hoping to make you a personal visit before long, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we'd love to have you here, and we'd love to do our chat live here as well, mate.
It'll happen. Thanks,
Cheers,
Brims.
Johnny.
See you, mate.
And have a good Anzac Day too, mate. Lest we forget, it's a big day on the Australian New Zealand calendar, isn't it? And,
yeah.
Thanks to all those that have served.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brims.